Live yet. All right, so now we're on the air. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Kasanova Podcast. This is actually episode 8. We are live right now, and it's a beautiful day, really beautiful out here. And I'm getting feedback. All right, there we go. I was having some technical difficulties there. Anyway, so I want to introduce very special guest people. And this is someone I'm really a big fan of all his content. This is Oh So Jiggly. And a lot of you may know him as Segalacious. So, hey, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mekel. I'm Segalacious of the channel Oh So Jiggly. On my channel, my brother and I actually share the channel, and we live several states apart. So we just kind of make videos as a way to keep in touch with each other. And one of the things we really enjoy are fighting games, and we really like games like Virtua Fighter, Tekken, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, and a lot of retro games from Sega and Nintendo. So we kind of make content about that.
Yep. Super amazing. Like it's so hard to find other gamers that are like into fighting games that are able to break down and just really dissect fighting games, from the mechanics to the lore. And you've been able to do such an amazing job of that with the Virtua Fighter series. Like your videos of why Virtua Fighter is significantly more important than Tekken was just super amazing. So if any of you guys out there watching this or listening to this, definitely go check out his channel. I'm leaving the link to in the description down below because it's so phenomenal.
Thanks, Mekel. I appreciate that. And also, guys, you'll probably notice that there's a really high there's a high dislike and like ratio on that video. It's kind of controversial too. So I appreciate y'all saying that. Some people think it was a good breakdown. And that I made it pretty clear, and it had sound arguments, and other people didn't think so. But whether you agree with me or not, I just like talking about it. So come on over. You're welcome.
All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get into some of these topics. So we had a couple topics we wanted to talk about, and one of them that I thought was kind of good was how the fighting game scene has resurged since 2015 to now. And so Segalacious, what do you think? What are some of your thoughts on that?
It's interesting when you brought that up because before you mentioned that to me, I didn't really think of it like the fighting game had resurged. But when I actually thought, stopped to consider it, I was like, yeah, actually, we've had a lot of really good fighting games lately. And in fact, even if you go back all the way to 2014, right? We had Smash 4 for the Wii U, which was it's got a big competitive scene. Some people don't consider that a fighting game because Sakurai said that it was a party game. But at the end of the day, if people make it competitive, then it's competitive and it's a fighting game. So that's a big one to me. And then you had Guilty Gear, Xrd, Persona 4 Arena, Ultimax. 2015 we've had Tekken 7, huge, amazing game. Love Tekken 7. Mortal Kombat 10, Dead or Alive 5, Last Round. That game was good.
It is.
It was really good. And then even like it's weird that even Nintendo has really been getting back into the fighting game scene because I remember back in the Super Nintendo days, if you wanted a good fighting game experience, you wanted it on a Nintendo console. And Sega fans would go, well, okay, with this new controller I got with the 6 buttons, it's, this is just as good. But, and it was kind of, I don't know, I guess it was kind of a fight between Sega and Nintendo on which one had more fighting games. But to me, it felt like the fighting game console of that generation was more the Super Nintendo, personally.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. And then and now Nintendo's kind of getting back into it because they kind of dipped out of that with the Wii. I mean, they had, I think, one good fighting game on there. What was it called?
The Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Yeah, Tatsunoko versus Capcom. Great game, but it was kind of the only one they had. But anyway, Street Fighter V came out in 2016, and then I was going to say Pokken Tournament came out. 2017. You get all these fighting games ported over to the Switch. Like they ported Pokken over to the Switch, Ultra Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, ARMS. Just so many. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Injustice 2. I mean, it really has exploded compared to. I think the last time it felt this way was back in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
the last time it felt this dense with fighting games. So I'm pretty happy about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like there was a period in the early 2000s where it started to taper off and slowly died. And I want to say that one of the games that actually brought it back would have to be Virtua Fighter 4, because that had a lot of people just getting back into the fight game scene. And I think at the same time, you had Tekken 4 come out, and that version didn't do anywhere near as well as Virtua Fighter 4. And then when they came out with 5, they tried to, a lot of the features that were in 4 that were in Virtua Fighter 4 actually got brought over to Tekken 5, which is interesting.
Yeah, so that's usually what happens. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Tekken 4 try to take a lot of Virtua Fighter 3's experiments, like with unlevel planes, weird stuff like that? It didn't work out, but that's kind of what Tekken has done a lot. And that really doesn't bother me, because to me, I feel like Tekken is like one of the children of Virtua Fighter. So, but you're definitely right. It's been, you really cannot overemphasize the significance of Virtua Fighter's contributions to the fighting game scene in 3D gaming, and back in the Sega Saturn days, in the arcades, and even in the PS2 era. It was really huge. And I don't know if this is true necessarily, but I almost feel like the death of arcades contributed to kind of a falling off of fighting games, because a lot of times, a lot of the big fighting games were ports from the arcade.
Yeah.
And without an arcade market, it could be that you just didn't have as many companies trying to make as many fighting games. You know what I mean? So, but honestly, I think fighting games can never die, Mekel.
No, I think it's a genre that will always be there. It's just going to shift, kind of in a way you see how, the Super Smash Brothers, and a lot of people may not consider it a fighting game. I actually didn't for a while either. I considered it a party game. But
yeah,
anytime you have something that requires, it has like mechanics that are technically sound, which Smash Brothers has really technically sound mechanics. You got to consider it a fighting game. It's just a different flavor of it,
Right.
It's
especially
kind of like, yeah, and it's just evolving, because now with Smash, they've created a whole new style of fighter. You saw Sony try to copy it with was it PlayStation All Stars, and then now you've got this you got a lot of these indie companies making games that are very similar to it. Like the most recent one, I believe, is Brawl Out, which came out on the Switch, and it was on PC earlier. And
how is Brawl Out, by the way? Do you like that one?
It's okay. It's not too bad. It does remind me a lot of Brawl, but there are some things that I think could be improved. I think it is a little bit too Twitch heavy. It doesn't have the full depth of Super Smash Bros. Brawl or the Super Smash Bros. 4, but it's pretty good for $20. I mean, for an indie game, it's pretty well polished.
It's kind of filling the void in your heart while you're waiting for a Smash port over to the Switch. So it's getting the job done. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, fighting games, at the end of the day, there are cycles and trends of popularity in any medium, in any genre. For a few years, it's really popular, then it goes back down and it comes back up again. The thing about fighting games that makes them so appealing and long-lasting is basically just one simple fact. It boils down to one fact, that fighting games are hype.
Yeah.
They're just so hype. The fact that they're hype makes them fun to watch. And even though they're one of the most challenging genres to get into for new players, I mean, it's got one of the highest learning curves and thickest barriers for new player entry. In spite of that, it's fun to watch because it's hype. So even though it gets away with it gets away with being difficult for new players to enter into because it's just so fun to watch. And I'm grateful for that. You know, I'm really grateful for the competitive scene. I think the competitive scene has done a lot to spur on the resurgence of fighting games in our day over the past couple of years. Because as I said, as fighting games started to drop off with the death of the arcades, which arcades were the source of competitive tournaments.
Yeah.
It's the competitive nature of fighting games that catapulted it to the forefront of the video game industry. And without the arcades, the competitive scene died down. But with Twitch and streaming and things like that, it's gone back up again. And I think that contributes quite a bit to the resurgence of fighting games today. I think. I could be wrong, but
No, I fully agree with you. I was going to ask, do you think that the death of arcades is primarily something that's happened in the West? Because I feel like Japan still has a strong arcade environment. Like, you got the pachinkos and they have the regular arcades. Like, it's still a booming business there, right?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. I've been very kind of ethnocentric in my thoughts coming into this podcast because I didn't really consider, actually in the East, it's still a big deal. My friend is in the military, or he was, and he served in South Korea, and he was telling me, oh yeah, man, I was playing Tekken 7 in the arcades against all these Korean guys. It was sick because I found this one arcade where one controller or one stick was really good and the other one was really bad. So I was just racking up wins all day because I was giving the other guy the bad stick. He was like a scumbag. It was really funny. But yeah, like arcades are still a big deal over there. So I think that could contribute also. And that's something I want to get into a little bit later about why Virtua Fighter is kind of bigger in the East than in the West also. But we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, I think you do have a point, Mekel. I would agree with you on that. It is still popular in the East.
I really wish it would have a resurgence here, but I think with and you kind of see the trends in gaming. It went from the 80s and the early 90s with the side-scrolling beat 'em ups to being about the fighting games from the early 90s to I want to say early 2000s, and then we saw the advent of the shooters, which the first-person shooter took over for so long.
Yeah, it did.
And it's amazing now that the transition in gaming has gone from the first-person shooter to like the battle arena style, like Fortnite and PUBG. And it's and I feel like we're just having transitions. It all comes back full circle, but it's really interesting to look at. I wanted to get your input on Dead or Alive 5 last round, and that's a game that I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the series since its inception, and I do feel like it's the closest to Virtua Fighter since it has another 3-button layout. Like, I want to get your thoughts on the series.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And Tomonobu Itagaki, who is the creator of Dead or Alive, was a huge fan of Sega. He was a huge fan of Yu Suzuki. And he was a big fan of Virtua Fighter. I watched an interview with him where they asked him, what was your thoughts for making Virtua Fighter? He was like, let me tell you about Virtua Fighter. It's classy. Like I'm kind of paraphrasing. I don't think he actually said it was classy, but that's what he was going for. He was saying it was kind of like when you go to like a 5-star sushi restaurant, and somebody comes out and they give you this delectable sushi roll and you eat it and you're like, oh, that was superb. Virtua Fighter, classy experience. But there's also these other sushi bars. Well, that was my phone. I dropped it. My bad.
Oh, no worries.
There's also these other sushi bars where you go in and you get sushi and there's like hot chicks on roller skates and mini skirts bringing you your sushi. And you're like, man, the other experience was very classy and highbrow, but this is a lot of fun. Like, it's sort of like the Hooters of sushi bars, So that's what he was doing. He was like, to paraphrase, he's like, I wanted to take Virtua Fighter, but make it like Hooters to make it more mainstream. And he did. I don't think he's been involved since Dead or Alive 4. I think that was the last time.
I think that was the last one.
left Team Ninja over a dispute over bonuses and stuff, and it was in the wake of this sexual harassment lawsuit that he was in. Which, by the way, yeah, he was found not guilty. But even though he was found not guilty, the fact that he brought so much bad publicity to Tecmo, they just kind of told him, yeah, you're demoted and your salary's cut and you're not getting these bonuses. And Itagaki was like, man, I took Tecmo and I brought it out of bankruptcy with my Dead or Alive franchise. And now you're trying to tell me that, you know, even though I'm innocent, that you're going to do this to me? I don't think so. And he left to form Valhalla Studios, you know, but Dead or Alive really does have a lot of the core aspects of Virtua Fighter. And one of the things I like about Dead or Alive is it's so respectful towards Virtua Fighter. Like, you can tell it really loves Virtua Fighter. And it takes it takes some solid mechanics from it, but it's added a presentation to it and a spectacle to it, and more than just in the sex appeal. I'm talking like with the cool counter moves, the really flashy stuff. There's Kagemaru, the ninja in Virtua Fighter, but the ninjas in Dead or Alive are super crazy, like Ninja Gaiden crazy ninjas. Yeah. And then like you're throwing people off of buildings and blowing them through walls and stuff like that. And there's like a tiny bit of that in Virtua Fighter 5. You can splat somebody into a wall or like a fenced wall so hard that they break through it and they get a ring out. There's a little tiny bit of that, but really Dead or Alive compromised a tiny bit on the depth and balance of the mechanics of Virtua Fighter in order to provide I think it's the flashiest 3D fighter. I almost feel like there's a spectrum where you've got pure fighting for 3D games and you've got Virtua Fighter on one extreme. And then on the other extreme, you've got a really strong emphasis on presentation, and that's more Dead or Alive. And I feel like Tekken kind of went in the middle there.
Yeah.
So I love Dead or Alive. It's great. I want to see, I don't know. One thing though about Dead or Alive 5 is that story mode. Oh, such a bad story mode to me. Yeah, it was terrible. But Tekken 7's got a pretty whack story mode too, even though I like it. I like the Mishima story, but that one guy, the reporter, that was like, his
voice acting is horrible. Oh my goodness.
He's like, oh, the Mishimas blew up my house. I wanted to kill them. Yep, I sure did. You know, it was just weird. But that's the thing. You can forgive all of that because the fighting is good.
Yeah.
So last round, great.
Which is funny because I think the vanilla version of Dead or Alive 5, was it 2011 that came out, I believe.
Was it that long ago? It may have been.
And I think they've just been up because they put Dead or Alive 5 on like the 360, PS3. It's been on PC, the Vita. Is that on 3DS? No, 3DS had Dimensions, I think. But then it's basically on everything, and I know a lot of people say, I don't understand why, it's the same game. I'm like, well, if you look at how, Virtua Fighter did their games, they would always refine that one title, that one entry over and over and over and over and over. And then it would get to the point where, okay, we've done everything we can. We've added main characters. We've balanced out the system. And now it's on to the next one. I think with last round, they've actually done that the roster is really diverse. I mean, you've got Virtua Fighter to Ninja Gaiden to, it's really a really good series. Like I just really loved Final Round or the Dead or Alive 5 last round.
I do too. I feel like it's the culmination of just refining that franchise and making it really cool. Although last round lost a lot of credibility in the competitive scene because of the fan service. It was kind of weird because vanilla Dead or Alive 5, when it came out, there were a lot of reviewers that were saying, oh yeah, everybody always gives Dead or Alive 5 a bad name, or Dead or Alive a bad name because they think it's all TNA and there's no substance to it. But Dead or Alive 5, it has substance. It's got solid gameplay mechanics, and they rated it high. They rated it like an 80 or a 90 out of 100. And then when Last Round came out, they really were cashing in on the sex appeal more so than anything else. But for me, that didn't bother me as much because they put in those Virtua Fighter characters, which I feel like just their presence there really lends a lot of credibility to how solid the mechanics are. The fact that these refined, iconic characters can exist inside of Dead or Alive 5's mechanics and be pretty much intact. I mean, they're a little nerfed. They're a little bit nerfed, but by and large, they play really well, and they're great. They play really fun, and they feel faithful to their Dead or Alive 5 counterparts, or excuse me, Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown counterparts. So, but I'm disappointed that the sex appeal has distracted people so much that the gameplay started to take a back seat. And with all the really sleazy downloadable stuff, and it's just gotten really crazy. I mean, you can buy the PS4 version of Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, and you're thinking, yeah, this is the complete edition. But then you find out there's like $1,000 worth of skimpy outfits and stuff that you can buy, and it's just Tecmo being Tecmo.
Yeah.
They're really bastardizing the franchise, and it kind of hurts me because that's Itagaki's baby right there. Like, say what you will about maybe his sexist approach somewhat to designing characters. Mm-hmm. There was still a measure of respect with like he took a lot of care in how he treated those characters. And I think that in Last Round they've gone too far. And I think that Itagaki is not pleased with how far they took the sexuality with his own characters. And that's saying something, because when Itagaki says, okay, that's too far, that's pretty far, you know what I'm saying? That's like Quentin Tarantino being like, okay, this movie's too graphic for me, guys. I can't get behind this anymore, So
it's definitely something you would never expect those type of people to say. But I mean, for that to come from them,
yeah. And he's just like, he even said, these girls are like my daughters, and they've ruined them by just how they've handled them. They haven't handled the franchise in a way that protects it. They're just cashing it out. Kind of like what's happened with Sonic the Hedgehog, They haven't protected. But the thing is, he's such a strong mascot. He's such a strong franchise that, like, Sonic is like the Nicolas Cage of video games, where it doesn't matter how many crappy games he's in or how many crappy movies he's in. He's always got a career, But that's the thing. Like, you get that when the original creator loses control over that property, you just get this cash out, and it dilutes the strength of the brand, and it's sad. And that, I feel like that's happened to Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, even though it's like my favorite Dead or Alive game, besides maybe 2.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I have very mixed feelings about the game in the way it was marketed, but as far as the way the gameplay goes, it's just it's superb. It's great. So
yeah. All right, let's go ahead and shift over to getting your thoughts on a possible revival of Virtua Fighter due to Final Showdown, or Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown being in Yakuza 6.
I'd like for that to happen. I really would. I'm a lot of people who are familiar with my channel, the early videos of my channel. I've made a lot of Shenmue videos. I'm a huge Shenmue fan. I'm more of a fanatic, really, of Shenmue than a fan. And there was a time when people were going, oh, Shenmue 3, is it this E3 coming out? Is Shenmue 3 coming out this E3? Or maybe it's the next one. It was like every year for like 5 years that was happening. And they had this racing game, Sonic and All-Stars Racing, and they put Ryo Hazuki in it. And then everyone went, oh man, Ryo Hazuki, he's in this racing game. Does that mean we're having Shenmue 3? And it kind of didn't really mean that, but it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
It got people talking about it. And I think that I honestly don't think that there are plans to bring back Virtua Fighter. I don't think that they put Virtua Fighter in Yakuza as a hint to say, hey, we're coming out with Virtua Fighter. But I do think it's going to do a lot to keep the brand, the Virtua Fighter brand, more fresh in the forefront of the gaming, the fighting game community and the gaming community's minds. I think it will help. And it might make more people go, hey, where is Virtua Fighter 6? How long has it been? Like 10 years or more since a Virtua Fighter game, you know? Like when are we going to get that? I don't think it'll hurt. I think it's going to help, but I don't. Do you ever watch Eris on Avoiding the Puddle?
I've heard of the channel. I haven't actually watched it, but I will definitely
look into it. This guy, he's really interesting because he kind of just yells at his chat all the time to be quiet and calls them stoners. But he's got a huge following, and he rubs shoulders with a lot of these business executives for fighting games, and like he'll talk to Harada, you know, all the time, like, and have people come on his streams and promote like Tekken mobile games and crap like that. But he was saying that he likes Virtua Fighter, and he said that he would go really hard in on a new Virtua Fighter game if they made it. And he's asked people, where's Virtua Fighter 6? And the corporate suits that he's talked to have always given him the same answer. And this has been a couple years ago since he's asked, so things could have changed. But what they told him was, if there will ever be a new Virtua Fighter game, it won't be for a very long time. And that kind of made my heart go, ugh, like it kind of sank. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if they were going to make one, why would they tell Eris? You know, because he's just going to go on the chat and on a stream and say, "Oh yeah, they told me this." Probably, you know. So I don't really know. It's not looking like there are definite plans for a Virtua Fighter 6. And one of the things about the Yakuza game is that they put Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown in the arcade in there, but I don't think there's online. Like, it would be cool if you could do an online match with other players who have the Yakuza game, like, and play, but I don't think you can do that. So it's just kind of
that really limits it by them doing that. But I understand, like, they're trying to do it in the sense of, oh, this is just an arcade game within a game. But when I also think about it, I'm like, that also kind of kills off the notion of there being like a continuity between Virtua Fighter, Shenmue, and Yakuza by them doing that. Because if I'm correct, there was a long-standing theory that Akira Yuki was actually Ryo Hazuki for a while, right?
He was, yeah. Shenmue was originally intended to be a Virtua Fighter RPG. And so Ryo was Akira. And if you look at some of the Virtua Fighter, like CG, they had these like karaoke CDs for the Saturn. And there are like these CG slideshows of Akira like going on trips to Hong Kong in a white t-shirt and jeans with a backpack slung over his shoulder. It looks just like Ryo Hazuki. And I've been thinking about doing a video actually about that sometime, about, you know, just how close to Akira Yuki is Ryo Hazuki, because Ryo actually, he's not Akira anymore. He's got some of Akira's moves, but that leather jacket, I mean, that's all Jackie Bryant right there. Yeah. And he's got some of Jackie's moves. He's got some of Kagemaru's moves. He's got some of Aoi Umenakoji's moves, you know, so
he's kind of like an amalgamation of all of them.
Yeah, he is. He's an amalgamation, exactly. So he's his own guy, but it's really interesting to just see how much they drew from that. And you can do a lot more things with Ryo that Akira might not be able to do just because it would be out of character. So I mean, it was a smart choice to do it that way, I think. But, you know, when you asked me this question about, like, what's the possibility of getting a new Virtua Fighter, I think it might be expedient to try to figure out together, like, why are we in this situation where we're not getting another Virtua Fighter game? Like, if it's so great, and I've had people ask me in the comment section of my videos, well, if Virtua Fighter is as great as you're saying, why don't we have any more Virtua Fighter? Why did it fail? Why didn't it sell well? And I think it all really goes back to the fact that Virtua Fighter, as popular as it became in the West, it never reached the heights that it reached in Japan and in the East. And I think the reason for that is that the first Virtua Fighter was such an innovation as far as technology goes. And the arcade cabinets were so expensive, and they were being produced and manufactured, I believe, in Asia. And so Japan could get an arcade cabinet in higher supply. You know, like an arcade outlet could get more Virtua Fighter cabinets easier and cheaper than you could in the West. And I think at how expensive those arcade cabinets were really kind of hurt the chances for people in the West to get as many cabinets, which made it so that the game didn't grow as much as it could have. But then on the other hand, the Tekken arcade cabinets were everywhere, like bowling alleys, bars, you know, like they were everywhere. So, and Virtua Fighter didn't really get that chance in the West like it did in Japan. And then also the fact that the Sega Saturn was more popular in Japan than the N64. And if you think about what's the number one game on the Sega Saturn? Do you know this, Mekel? The number one best-selling game? I'm putting you on the spot, bro. I'm sorry, but starts with a V. And it ends with a 2.
I was gonna say Virtua Fighter 2 would have to be. I mean, that was one of the best fighting games. I would put Virtua Fighter 2 over Tekken 7. I mean, Tekken 2.
Oh, easily. I mean, it really would be a better argument to say which is better, Tekken 3 or Virtua Fighter 2. And I think you could make the case that maybe Virtua Fighter 2 edges it a little. And that's crazy because Virtua Fighter 2 is quite a bit older, you know, but that's the thing. In Japan, the Saturn was huge compared to in America. It was more popular than the N64. And everybody who had a Saturn had Virtua Fighter 2. So, of course, Virtua Fighter is exploding even more. Then you go to America, the Saturn suffered really bad.
Yeah.
You know, barely anybody had one. The only reason I had one is because my dad found one at a pawn shop and got it for me for like really cheap when I was a kid, because I asked for a PlayStation and he was like, "Here you go." And he gave me a Saturn. But I was happy. I was really happy. I was like, well, actually at first I was like, what is this? Because I was playing Tomb Raider and Resident Evil on it. And I was like, these graphics suck. Like, why is the Saturn so sucky? Why do its graphics suck so bad? And then I put in Virtua Fighter 2 and I went, oh, never mind. Like, this looks better than the N64 to me. Like, I was like, okay, forget it. Yeah, this is great. But that hurt. So, you know, it's just the limited availability of the original Virtua Fighter arcade cabinets. The fact that the Saturn didn't do as well in the US as it did in Japan. And then Virtua Fighter 3 experimented. Didn't really pan out. I still like Virtua Fighter 3, but it's a little whack. Like, a little bit. But I mean, I like it though. But the thing was, they were trying to port that over to the Saturn, and it didn't work out. And then they sat on it until I think 1998 or 1999 when it came out on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
But it was already a super old game by then. Like when did I don't remember when it came out.
I think 3 came out either 95 or 96, because I remember it was blowing people away with how no game looked that good at the time.
No. Yeah, it looked amazing. I mean, it still looks okay for how old it was on the Dreamcast, which is a testament to how good it looked. But you got to strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So you didn't have an arcade port of Virtua Fighter 3 until a console port of Virtua Fighter 3 until the Dreamcast, and by then it was too late, you know. And then you get Sega gets out of the console business, right? And they put Virtua Fighter 4 on the PS2, and it did really well. But that's the thing, man. Like, so many people were hurt when Sega went out of the console business, and there were a lot of people that, like, it was hard to go to Sony, you know, after the Dreamcast bowed out. In fact, I was one of those little fanboys that I was like, I will never own a Sony console because it's their fault that they killed my Dreamcast, you know, and so I actually didn't even play Virtua Fighter 4 until I was older. But of course, I love Sony. I mean, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be Shenmue 3. So we're cool now, Sony. Don't worry. I'm not coming after you.
I think too, like for a lot of us that, because I was growing up, I was a Sega and Nintendo fan growing up, and it's kind of funny because in my neighborhood when I was growing up, both in Western Samoa and in Memphis, Tennessee, the kids were like, "You're either Sega or Nintendo." And I think a lot of this current generation of gamers, they don't understand when they're talking console war. No, back then in the 90s and 80s, it was you were one or the other. You weren't the kid that had both.
Yeah, it was Crips and Bloods, man.
Yeah.
Were you a Blood? Were you wearing Mario Red?
Yeah.
Or were you wearing Sonic Blue? And you don't walk into the wrong neighborhood.
Exactly. But it's like now these kids are all like going, "Oh, it's Sony, I'm a PS4 fan, or I'm an Xbox One fan, or this." I'm like, you guys, compared to our era, no. it's so much more mainstream now, and I don't think these kids understand. And when I say kids, I'm not trying to disrespect any of the young people that are into gaming now, but I'm saying any of those.
I am. They're Minecrafts and they're freaking Roblox. Play a real game. Play Donkey Kong Country. Get off my lawn.
Speaking of that, like the amount of people who are shocked at how hard. Did you ever play Cuphead?
Yeah. Oh, I love Cuphead.
And they're like, "Oh, it's so hard. I can't believe how hard this game is." I'm like, did you grow up playing like Gunstar Heroes?
Yeah, it's like NES hard or Genesis hard, but it's not like it's not unheard of hard.
I was like, okay. I'm like, if you think this is hard, I'm gonna pull out a Genesis and have you play Country Hardcore.
Yeah. I was about to say, here, I'm gonna give you Alien Wars on the Super Nintendo, or even first sponsor on the NES would be hard too. But yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And but that's the thing, like, because of how Sega handled its corporate situation, they fumbled handling the brand of Virtua Fighter well, so that it could last a long time, because just so many things kept happening. And I mean, they handled Virtua Fighter 4 superbly. In fact, you could say Virtua Fighter 4 might even be better than Virtua Fighter 2. It's a lot of people say it's the best Virtua Fighter, and I don't disagree. It's hard for me to choose between them, but that's the thing. It can be the best game ever, but if you don't have support, marketing support, business management support, even a good product is going to fail.
I was thinking too, what they could have done, because you did kind of see Sega slightly do this in like 2001, 2002, is shift towards the Xbox, because a lot of their stuff, Just Set Rio Future. You had the Sega GT series, which did really well on the original Xbox. Right. I think they had Otogi Myth of Demons.
Oh yeah, that was published by Sega. I don't think it was an in-house developer, but yeah,
true. But I was just saying, like, man, if they went the route of, okay, if you're not gonna do consoles, then just if they put their games on just the Xbox, they could have done it and done really well with it. But I feel like with Sega, the problem I think with Sega was they were always trying to chase the American market at the same time of trying to cater to their Japanese market. And at some point, you kind of just got to cater to one and the others just got to deal with it. Because if you think about it, one of the reasons the Dreamcast died, aside from financial issues that they had with budgeting and marketing and everything, was the fact that it launched without a DVD player, which PlayStation 2 had. And that really hurt it. And it's crazy to think about it now, but
it pisses me off so bad. Like, at launch, the Dreamcast had way better games than the PS2.
Yep.
But DVDs, like, you're the best game system, but it's not because you had the best games. It's because you had a DVD player. That's a gimmick. I'm still salty about that. Now, don't get me wrong, PS2 went on to have amazing games, probably one of the best game libraries of all time, but not at launch. At launch, its success was not from the games, it was the DVDs. And nobody even likes DVDs anymore.
True.
And we lost Sega. We lost Sega because of DVDs. Damn it. So, anyway, it's ancient history. I mean, the thing is, looking at that stuff just makes you realize, even a strong brand can diminish and be forgotten. It's not about the quality of the game or how deep or how good it was. It's just how the marketing was handled. Like, even if you look at Virtua Fighter 5, it started off not so great, and then Final Tuned came out. I mean, it's like those multiple versions you were talking about, like Street Fighter 3, and then Double Impact, and then Third Strike, and everybody really liked Third Strike. And it was kind of like that with Virtua Fighter 5. You had Virtua Fighter 5, Virtua Fighter 5
R?
I forget what it was called. I think it was R. Yeah, and then you had Final Tuned. And everybody really liked that one, and then Final Showdown came out, and everybody really liked Final Showdown on the consoles. Problem was, digital only release.
Yeah.
And it was already a super old game. And where's the marketing? No game modes. In fact, they took game modes out. There was a quest mode in Virtua Fighter 5 online on the 360 and on the PS. Well, the PS3 didn't have online, I don't think, but they had a quest mode, and they took it out.
I don't understand why. I didn't understand what they were doing with Virtua Fighter 5 because you're gonna initially drop it on the PS3. There's no online mode. They didn't patch it to include it, and then I think a year or two later they put it out on the 360, which, I mean, admittedly at the time it had a better online infrastructure than PS3, but
yeah,
there's no marketing at all. Like. Mm-hmm. After the 360 one, I didn't even know about, R or Final Tune up until I heard about Showdown, and I was like, wait, we had all these other revisions? Because Sega didn't say anything.
No, they didn't. And they did a really good job with Final Showdown. It was really awesome. The gameplay was great. I liked it a lot. I mean, a lot of people didn't like it as much as 4. I get that. I mean, yeah, they kind of mainstreamed it a little bit, but let's face it, Virtua Fighter needed a little bit of mainstreamization. I don't know what you would call it. I don't know. And you know what else is Virtua Fighter? For a long time, the people at Sega in charge of Virtua Fighter were very hesitant to get in on the online competitive scene. Mm-hmm. Like PS3, you couldn't play Virtua Fighter 5 online, and then Xbox, you could. But think about that. Virtua Fighter 5 on the Xbox 360. That was one of the first times you could play Virtua Fighter online on a console. I mean, I think they had arcade cabinets that could let you do online connecting, but they had their own servers, but they were scared of the lag. They were like, oh no, Virtua Fighter is such a technical game. Any amount of lag would ruin the whole experience, so they didn't want to do it, But online was the future.
Yeah.
So that hurt Virtua Fighter. That hurt it also. So just a lot of things.
Yeah. I was going to say, with Virtua Fighter, I feel like when you think about Final Showdown, it's just so well crafted. And I hate to always just gush over mechanics, but I mean, I can't think of a deeper 3D fighting game than Virtua Fighter or the last one, Final Showdown, because even with how good Tekken 7 was, I don't really feel like Tekken 6 was that great. I like Tekken 5. I didn't like 6 that much.
See, and everybody says Tekken 7 it's easier for beginners, so that's why it's more popular and stuff. But actually, Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown wasn't that hard for beginners. It's actually really fun at the noob level. But the thing is, in Tekken 7, there are some characters that are a lot easier to learn than others, so you can rank up faster with them.
Yeah.
Than somebody who's trying to use a harder character. And what's that guy's name? Can't remember his name. With the hop kick, the really annoying hop kick guy.
Warring.
Starts with a he's one too. No, starts with a D, I think. It's like a Russian name, like Dragunov. Dragunov, that's it.
Yeah.
Dragunov's hop kick. It's like, get out of here, man. That'll make you freaking rage quit all day. It's kind of funny. But yeah, like Virtua Fighter 5 doesn't allow you to memorize like one combo. Like, okay, here's how I'm gonna rank up. You ready? I'm gonna play as a guy with a really good hop kick launcher. And then I'm going to do one string of combo, like a combo, like the same string every single time. I'm just going to punish this whiff with the same hop kick and same combo until I win and get high up in the ranks. Virtua Fighter 5, you can't do that. If you remember one combo string and do it over and over, there's too much creativity in Virtua Fighter 5 to get away with that. And even when you get your butt handed to you in Virtua Fighter 5, you don't feel as salty about it because it doesn't feel cheap. Like Tekken 7, I'm not saying it's a fundamentally cheap game because it's not. It's deep, it's competitive, it's balanced, it's great. But sometimes you're like, man, that was freaking cheap. I lost and I felt like that was cheap. But in Virtua Fighter 5, and whether it was cheap or not, because so many people get mad if in the Tekken community, you're not allowed to say anything critical of Tekken at all, unless you're like in the top 8 in tournaments or something. Like everybody will always go, oh, what's your rank then? Oh, you probably can't get in the green ranks. Why don't you get in the red ranks or the orange ranks, and then you can say something. But until then, you can't say anything. And it's like, man, that's stupid. Like, give me a break. Like, there's the majority of people who play these games are not in the orange ranks, but their voices matter too. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's all I'm saying is in Virtua Fighter 5, when you lose, you go, yeah, I'll give you that one. It doesn't feel cheap, you know? And I think that speaks to its depth, you know? So.
Yeah.
But can I ask you? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, well, hey, man, I just wanted to ask you, from one Virtua Fighter fan to another, if they were to make a Virtua Fighter 6, what would you want to see in that? Or how would you make it successful, maybe? What should they do different?
The main thing I think they would probably need to do, it would be to dramatically increase the roster, which I just think people are going to complain about that if they don't. Even though I think the roster is perfect as it is, they're going to look at Tekken and be like, how come this has more people?
You're right. I can understand that. Even though it takes a lot longer to get good with that smaller Virtua Fighter roster than it does to get good at like the whole Tekken 7 roster. Like, it's like War and Peace deep. Like, it takes a long time to get good with the character in Virtua Fighter 5. Like,
it does. Like my main character is Jackie Bryant, and it took me to get really good with him a year.
Did you see my lore video on Jackie Bryant?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
love Jackie.
Good. I have friends that play as Sarah Bryant, and sometimes when I play them, I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, she's such a fluid character. I was like, man. And that was one of the things, like, when I play Virtua Fighter, like because on my Xbox One, I'll go back and forth between Virtua Fighter and Tekken, and it's just so amazing how I don't ever, going back to what you're saying about not feeling like you lost due to cheapness is more just due to skill. I don't get that issue when I'm playing Virtua Fighter. When I'm playing Tekken, because on Tekken, I play as Jin, and I really love him because of how technical he is. He's very situational based, but I can go up, especially in 7, I can go up against someone who's got either Warang or they've got Katarina. Lucky. Yes. Oh, God, I hate Lucky Chloe. It's, and if I
get good, then it's not the game's fault. It's your fault. That's what people are going to say in the comments.
It is. It's like, especially when I used to stream it, I'm like, man, like, they don't understand that Jin is such a situational based character that if I've got someone that's throwing really quick attacks, he's just going to get punished.
You picked a character that is harder to learn than the Lucky Chloe characters and the Katarina characters, where you just go, hey, watch me win this match. Circle, circle, circle.
Yep.
And they win. And you're like, what the frick, dude? Like, I'm actually trying, like, with some skill over here. I don't know. But obviously, if you had some real skill, you could deal with Katarina and Lucky Chloe. You're just a noob, and you should never talk about fighting games again. Oh So Jiggly. That's what everybody says to me. But when you talk about expanding the roster of Virtua Fighter, I got a couple for you. All right.
Okay.
Let's get some Yakuza characters in there.
Okay.
Kiryu.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Goro. And then let's put Ryo Hazuki in there from Shenmue. And Lan Di.
Who would Okay, so that was one of the things, because Lan Di makes me think of
Lao.
I always thought he was an older Lao.
He's a lot like Lao. What's the name of that guy in Shenmue 2? Bahi or Baju, or forget his name.
I think.
Baju. Yeah. He's a lot like Lao also. He's got that PPPK move where you go ha 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 and then do the spin kick. Yeah. He does that to you. So a lot of characters borrow moves from they borrow moves from a lot of different Virtua Fighter characters, but Lan Di, he does stuff that's he does remind you of Lao, because he sits there like this with his hands behind his back, and you just throw all your stuff at him and he just goes like this, and then he does like a Chuck Norris roundhouse kick and just ends you without even taking his hands out from behind his back. But you could make him unique. And I was thinking you could do something cool to where you have to do something special to unlock them. Like you could have like a dragon statue and a phoenix statue. And if you get somebody a ring out and break the statue, then a phoenix mirror falls down. And when you get the phoenix mirror, Ryo Hazuki shows up to get it. Or the dragon mirror, Lan Di shows up. It'd be sick. There's little things you could do.
Yeah.
I would do that. Also, one thing that, as I was mentioning, Tekken and Dead or Alive have over Virtua Fighter, even with their crappy story modes. And I mean, oh gosh, Street Fighter has a really crappy story mode too, especially Street Fighter V. Don't even get me started. Have you seen the one with I can't remember if it was Akuma's, the ending of Akuma's story, where Ryu's on the ground and he's like, "Oh, wait, I have a question for you, Akuma." And Akuma's like, "What?" He's like, "What's the answer? What do you fight for?" And Akuma's like, "Well, I fight for," and Ryu's like, "No, don't answer with your words. Answer with your fist." And Akuma's like, "I see what you did there." and that's the end. And I was like, no. But okay. But even a bad story, at least it's something, right? You could put a story in Virtua Fighter. And I was thinking maybe do instead of a Virtua Fighter 6, what if we just did a soft reboot of Virtua Fighter and started over with Virtua Fighter 1, but it's got the whole roster of Virtua Fighter 5. And you could do the backstories for each character as the story mode.
Yeah.
So you're playing as Akira, and then the story mode is it can be short. It doesn't have to be an arcade ending. It can just be the story mode is the tutorial, and you could play as Akira. You're in your dojo, and some dudes come in and try to attack your dojo, and you got to do Tetsu Zanko and Roman Chocho on them to get rid of him. You learn the moves. Or Jackie Bryant, you could do a mini game where he's in an outrun Ferrari and he's driving, and then he's got to do the somersault kick to jump out of the car or something, or Sarah Bryant could be skydiving, or I think I wrote down one. Let me see here. You could do a Sega bass fishing mini game for Jeffrey McWild, and then he catches the Satan shark, and he's got to do the giant swing on the on the shark, or he'll do the splash mountain on the shark, on the devil shark or something, and you learn the moves that way. I think that'd be hilarious.
Isn't that his whole story? For every game is the devil shark.
Yeah. But I'm gonna do a video on Jeffrey because we're gonna get into this. There's some Freudian stuff you got to get in his mind. I'm gonna find a way. But Lao, you could do a cooking mini game.
Yeah.
Kagemaru, you could do a mahjong mini game. I don't know, but there's enough personality there. People think that the characters are generic and have no personality. That's what Watch Mojo said, and I was like, no, it's not true. That's why I started making the Virtua Fighter lore videos, because the characters are hype. They're really hype and they're really cool. So just people don't know. But anyway, sorry for taking so long on that. But I just
no, dude, this is amazing. You know, and that's one of the things I like about this podcast is all about the organic conversations because things just flow. You
right.
know, and that's when you're in that moment. It's amazing to just let it just develop how it's going to develop. But I agree with you. I think at this point it would be better for them to just reboot it than to say 6 because a lot of people are going to be like, what's the others? You know?
Yeah, 6, huh?
Yeah.
But then again, King of Fighters had like, what was it, 14?
Yeah, which is a really good 2D fighter, but
amazing.
It's just it's. I think it's just because it's sitting in the shadow of Street Fighter.
Yeah, and 5 is okay. It's fine, but it doesn't. I don't know. I prefer King of Fighters 14 over Street Fighter 5. I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry. Like you can shoot me, but no, I liked it a little more.
You know, and when you think about it, look at how King of, and we're completely going off the topic of Virtua Fighter and Tekken.
That's okay.
But
that's okay.
You know, you look at how King of Fighters 14, it came out same price. I think it was the same year. Was it the same year as 5? Yeah, it was. So it came out 2016, just like Street Fighter 5. Mm-hmm. It had a full roster versus
and Street no Fighter budget, tiny budget,
right? And people, the only thing people could say about it was, "Oh, look at the graphics; it looked like a PS2 game." Yeah, but the mechanics, it was mechanically sound.
Very,
you know, and I think it's the same battle system guy who did Street Fighter 4.
Oh yeah,
I believe
that would make sense.
Because it does feel like Street Fighter 4. It's got that fast arcadey feel. And that was one of the things that was kind of jarring to me about Street Fighter 5 is they really slowed it down. It's almost like they were chasing Street Fighter 3 again.
Yeah.
But they just didn't quite get it right. And I initially I didn't like the changes they made to Ken because I'm a Ken player. And I get a lot of crap from people. They're like, "Oh, well, you're playing an easy Shoto character." I'm like, "Yeah, but I can beat you without throwing one Dragon Punch, Fireball, or Tatsumaki."
I know. But Ken is hype. He's a cool character. I mean, yeah, his hair looks like a bunch of bananas in this game. But, you know, presentation's not the best at all. But, you know, it's okay. Like, I think with Street Fighter 5, since we're kind of segued over to this for a second, or gotten off on this tangent. I think what happened with Street Fighter 5, and I could be wrong, obviously I'm wrong all the time, but I feel like they tried to find a way to please everyone.
Yeah.
Both the hardcore, like elite fans and the casual fans, but they did it the wrong way. They changed the mechanics of Street Fighter 5 to make it to where the input barrier, like the skill barrier to pull off like combos, was a lot lower, which pissed off the hardcore elite people because they're like, no, it's not hype in a tournament to do a combo if it's not hard to do the combo. You know, like that's what makes it exciting, and you made it too easy. But then on the other hand, the casuals are like, oh, I like that, but you gave me a game that doesn't have like, it barely has an arcade mode. It's just a versus online game. Casuals don't like that, and with a small roster. Hardcore fans don't care about that. That's all they do is play online, small roster or not. They just want to play online, and that's it. No other modes besides like a tutorial mode. But casuals need more than that. So they screwed up. They did the wrong thing for the casuals, and they did the wrong thing for, you know, the elite people. And they tried to please everyone and ended up pleasing kind of no one in a way. I mean, I shouldn't say no one because there's a following for Street Fighter 5, and it is a good game, but it just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel the same.
It's the worst selling Street Fighter, which I found amazing. And I think a lot of that has to do with them exclusively having that, as far as console-wise, on the PlayStation 4. And I think, and I understand that there wouldn't be a 5 without Sony because Capcom didn't have the money to create another one. And I think that was why they were writing 4 for so long. But I think that if it wasn't just purely console exclusive to the PlayStation 4, I think it would do better. Like if say for instance, if it came to the Switch, I think it would sell like hotcakes. Because Ultra Street Fighter 2, everyone was saying it will never sell, it will never sell, and it exceeded their expectations.
I bought it. I had to play as Violent Cat online.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I like it. It's fun. Look, it's a very famously unbalanced game, but it's still really hype and really fun.
Yeah.
It's a classic. It's fun. I like it. I do.
I know a lot of people have been upset with the price on it. And that was the biggest argument. They're like, oh, it's the same game as HD Remakes. I'm like, technically it's not.
No, it's not. But you got to have, it's a little bit better. It's probably the best version of Ultra Street Fighter 2 that there is, but you got to have that Pro controller, or whatever they call it, for the Switch. Because if you try to play on the Joy-Con, it's garbage. It's not good. Yeah. Joy-Cons are good, but just not for fighting games. Like, no. But yeah, hey, put Street Fighter 5 on the Switch. I would play. Put Tekken 7 on the Switch too. Oh, that would be.
I don't understand why they don't do that. Like,
I mean, they could scale it down, right? I don't know.
It's running that Unreal Engine 4, and I mean, they could easily do it. I mean, I guess that segues into our next topic. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. But either way,
it kind of does. We said Tekken.
Do you think there's a possible Tekken crossover with Virtua Fighter in Tekken 7, since Tekken 7 seems to be having Street Fighter characters? This guy Geese from King of Fighters are fighting
Noctis. They put a freaking Final Fantasy character in there, whatever.
Which, okay, if you're gonna put a Final Fantasy character, I would have rather have seen Tifa or Zeldench from Final Fantasy VIII, who are actually fighters. Why do we need? He's using swords. He would have done better, in my opinion, in Soul Calibur.
I agree, but it's part of the, making Tekken into an anime, which they've done since like Tekken 6 with Lars and all that. But not Virtua Fighter, Final Fantasy. Which one is it now? Is it 15? Is that where Noctis is from? They spent so much money on Final Fantasy 15 that they really need to try to get as much as they can out of it. So they're probably still not satisfied with the return they've made. I'm not saying they lost money on it, but they probably want to make a lot more than they have. So that's why they're doing that. They're just trying to get more return on that stuff. And there's a big fan base for Final Fantasy, and Tekken having new players is good. So it's not a bad idea to have Noctis in there, but it does make you salty when you're like, are they going to do Akira? Who are they going to do? And then they do a Final Fantasy character instead of a fighting game character. It's kind of like a slap in the face, for some of us. But, I've thought about this. If you put a Virtua Fighter character in Tekken, who would it be? Because traditionally, so far in Tekken 7, it's been the villains of fighting games. But I guess with Noctis, you could kind of throw that out the window now, because he's not the villain of I don't know why I keep saying that, of Final Fantasy. But I don't know, who would you put in? I guess Akira. You would put in Akira. He's not the villain at all. Like, he's the main character. He's the good guy, but he's the most popular one, besides maybe Jackie Bryant. But he has more appeal to the Eastern market, so I guess if you had to pick one character, only one, because, for a villain, who are you going to pick? Like Dural?
Yeah.
You're going to pick Jean Kujo? Like, nobody really knows him. He's not as iconic yet. Like, I like Go Hinagami. He's cool, but people are going to be like, who's Go Hinagami? They don't really realize it. Yeah. So, okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, we're going to put Akira in here. Okay. Now, I've had people say to me, it's hard to put a Virtua Fighter character in Tekken because the systems are not as compatible as perhaps Dead or Alive and Virtua Fighter. And so, do you know Core A Gaming? You know that channel?
Yeah.
Core A Gaming, really good channel. He made this video called like Tekken Analysis 2D versus 3D. And he talked about how in 2D, there's like a mirror image when you fight. Like it's not realistic, but like if you have Sagat on one side. Have you seen that video where he's talking about
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got on one side, and then the eye patch is over here, and then you flip over, and it just does a mirror image, and the eye patch is on the other side. But they do that to keep the symmetry so that the attacks on the left and on the right look the same. But in Tekken, that's not the case. Your right and left on one side look different than the right and left on the other side. So like it can mess with you. And that's part of what makes Tekken such a complex fighter, really. It's pretty awesome. So you would have to give a Virtua Fighter character a left and right punch and a left and right kick, right? You wouldn't do PKG.
Yeah.
You would do punch, kick, guard. And then as a Virtua Fighter fan, how would you feel about that?
Good point.
Is it as compatible?
I don't see it, and I agree with you. I don't think it would be, because it's not like putting them in Dead or Alive where the systems are basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to revamp everything, because now you wouldn't even have a guard button.
No.
Like, how would you
neutral guard, neutral stick guard,
And
that's weird.
For anyone that's going to come in that has a history of Virtua Fighter, I think we would struggle trying to transition from our system to that, unless they modified it to where Virtua Fighter characters only have these inputs or only use these buttons. And even then you're kind of dividing,
the fan base. Oh yeah, the mechanics. Yeah.
But I guess it could work, because if you think about it, like if we use like Street Fighter 5, for example, you've got Ed. He's the tutelage. He's under tutelage of Balrog. He is not a traditional Street Fighter character at all.
No.
They made it work. But I guess within a 2D, within the 3D fighter, could they do it? They could, I guess.
They've done it before, because Akuma and Geese are in the same boat. They have, well, not exactly the same boat, because with the Street Fighter and King of Fighters games, you do have that symmetry, just like with Virtua Fighter, where since you only have one punch, if you flip to the other side, it's not changing like the way you look at it. It's not like the left and right punch. It's just one punch. But in Street Fighter, you have more than one. You have three punches. You have light, medium, heavy, and three kicks: light, medium, heavy, kick. And so you can do things with light and medium and heavy kicks and make them switch limbs, I guess, which is what they did with Akuma and Geese. So it kind of works. But still, you would think surely a 3D game like Virtua Fighter and a 3D game like Tekken would have more in common and be more compatible than a 2D game and a 3D game like Tekken and Street Fighter, or Tekken and King of Fighters. You would think that. But at the same time, so Geese Howard plays different than, he plays pretty similarly to King of Fighters, but he's really different as well. And same with Akuma. Like, he feels familiar, but he's not the same. But that's okay.
Heavier.
Yeah, he's heavier, yeah. And like you feel like, okay, well, you've got a 2D Akuma and you've got a 3D Akuma. So you can separate those. That's fine. But you don't have that with Virtua Fighter, because you've got 3D and another 3D. So then which one's the real one? And it would be such an overhaul that I would argue you might as well just make a whole new Virtua Fighter game to try to preserve the integrity of each of those characters and their legacy and their moves into a Tekken system. They might as well get some dude to like come out and make a, like they got one guy making a Soul Calibur game. They should have somebody come out and do a new Virtua Fighter game, but it would be totally different. It would be with a right and left punch Virtua Fighter. It'd be totally different. And even if they did it, so there's two ways you could do it. You could shoehorn in. You could totally transform the Virtua Fighter characters by putting them into Tekken's system with a right and left punch, right and left kick. And then fans of Tekken would like having Virtua Fighter characters in it. But fans of Virtua Fighter would be put off by how the Virtua Fighter characters played in it. So who would that serve? You would disenfranchise people. Because the whole point is you want to get Virtua Fighter fans into Tekken, but you want to alienate them. That's the risk. Or you could preserve the PKG mechanics, but then it's like a Mugen. You have like two different games smacked into each other. Just it'd be jarring.
Then you're gonna have the balance issues with that.
And I hate to say it because I would love to see a Virtua Fighter character in Tekken 7, but it's hard. It's really hard. I don't know what you would do. Like as I thought about it, it got more difficult the more I thought about it. It's tricky. I'm not sure what you would do there. So those are my thoughts on that.
I think if anything, the only thing I could see them doing, they would have to probably just bring in either Ryo or more likely Kazuma Kiryu, because they're not tied to a particular fighting system.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with a Yakuza character. Heck, I would be overjoyed if they put Ryo Hazuki in Tekken 7. That'd be epic, man. That'd be really cool. So you could do it with other characters, but I'm just saying that it's weird because Tekken and Virtua Fighter are so similar in their history. I mean, the co-creator of Virtua Fighter directed the first Tekken. Mm-hmm. Tekken has always followed Virtua Fighter's lead. And then a lot of people will say, well, Tekken became more 3D. It took the basics of 3D and moved into a whole new avenue beyond what Virtua Fighter did. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like they moved beyond 3D by becoming more 2D, by throwing in a bunch of fireballs and laser beams and rage arts and ultra attacks. Like that's what set 3D games apart from 2D games, was the lack of those crazy like auto combos and the lack of the fireballs. That's what Virtua Fighter established. So like I feel like Tekken has changed more than from Virtua Fighter than Dead or Alive has. It's become its own thing, but it didn't become its own thing by becoming more 3D, in my opinion. Well, in some ways it did become more 3D, but in other ways it became more 2D also. So I don't know. It's kind of a contradiction, but it makes it hard to make Virtua Fighter and Tekken compatible, and that really bums me out because it feels like they should be compatible because they have such similar origins. So
yeah, definitely agree with that, and I think I think because Harada wants, it seems like he's always teasing that he wants to do that. He wants to cross them over.
Yeah, and I want him to, but it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, like how are you gonna do it without alienating the fan base? Like that's.
Yeah. So, are you depressed now, Mekel? I'm sorry. I wanted to give you the good news. I wanted to be like, yeah, there's going to be Virtua Fighter 6. Yeah, we can have a Tekken crossover. And on both of them, I was like, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard. The realities are kind of tough.
Because I've been wanting to see like how Leo would fare against Akira because they use the same fighting style.
Yeah, yeah. They use Baji Xuan, yeah.
Like, man,
I'm one of the people that wants these things to happen more than most people. So don't get me wrong. I want them to happen, but I want them to happen so much that I've realistically tried to think it out. And what I found was, oh man, this is like it's like a tangled up ball of yarn to try to figure out how to fix this problem. So
true.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Soul Calibur 6? What do you think that means for like the FGC and just your overall thoughts on gaming right now?
You know, in a way, I think Soul Calibur 6 could help with the revival of Virtua Fighter 6 more than Yakuza. So see, there you go. I'm giving you a little ray of hope again. Because here's the deal. Tekken 7 is so popular and successful and new.
Yeah.
And it's a 3D fighter. And it's I mean, isn't it the most successful 3D fighter or the highest selling? Actually, it might be just the highest selling fighting game, period.
Yeah, I think
ever.
So.
That's huge. And so then Namco's like, heck yeah, what other 3D fighting franchise? Like 3D fighters, you know, it's like Zoolander. You know, it's hot right now. It's so hot right now. We got to get more. You know? So they're like, okay, let's put in Soul Calibur and it's going to be awesome. And I think it's going to sell. I think it's going to sell because it's going to go right off the coattails of Tekken. And, but okay, you got to be careful because let me back up because some of the other Soul Calibur games, they got away from what people really loved about Soul Calibur 2, which is I don't know. I really like Soul Calibur 1 and 2 the most. I played Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube. I played that Raphael.
2 was like the most well balanced because 3, 4, and 5.
1 on the Dreamcast is pretty tight. I like 1 also. But yeah, you're right. And the reason, like 3, 4, 5 is okay, but they kind of got away from the roots of what made Soul Calibur 2 so popular with the fans, which was the guard impact system. They kind of changed it, and like I know it's kind of funny. I'm not trying to be a fighting game authority, and I don't want to be, because I'm not. I'm just an enthusiast. I like to play fighting games. And actually, the fighting game I probably know the most about is probably Street Fighter. And then after that, it's probably Tekken. I know less about Virtua Fighter than I do about Tekken, even though it's my favorite one of the two, just because it's such a deep game. And I know even less about Soul Calibur than Virtua Fighter, but I know enough that fans were upset because of the guard impact mechanic. And so if you take Soul Calibur 6 and you do something to make those fans happy again while still staying new somehow, I think it'll sell well. And then other companies will start to go, hey, these 3D fighters are really popular right now. They're selling. What other 3D fighters can we get out there? And then Sega will be like, ooh, easy money? Okay, let's do. Well, I don't know. Virtua Fighter is not really easy money. That's why they don't have another one, because it takes so long to put one out and fine tune it. But I'm just saying, I think Soul Calibur 6, if it does really well, this could be the chance to really push 3D fighting games even further into the limelight. And the more popular that the 3D fighting game genre is, the better chance we have of a Virtua Fighter 6. Yeah. And even, I mean, hey, how about Toe Ball?
We never got 2.
I know. Doesn't Toe Ball 2 have the biggest roster of all time?
It does.
It's like huge.
We went from
my friends was like, "Ooh, Smash Brothers 4 has the biggest roster ever," and I was like, "No, not even. It's Toe Ball, dude. Like 109 characters or something crazy, maybe more. I can't remember."
Yeah, because it's like we went from Toe Ball 1. Well, at least here in America, we went from Toe Ball 1 to Guys.
Yeah.
Which,
okay, it was fun. Didn't age well, but yeah, it was okay.
It's like, what happens when you mix Toe Ball and Tekken with Final Fantasy characters? Actually, wait. Now you think about it, that's kind of what they're doing with Tekken 7.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. You could put some Toe Ball characters into Tekken 7. That could happen. That could definitely happen. Put some Soul Calibur characters into Tekken 7. Why not? You could.
See, with the revival...
Soul Calibur 2, sorry.
No. Like, with the revival of Soul Calibur, I'm thinking, like, what other games could come back to just... Because there's really not a lot of 3D fighters.
That's what I'm saying. They could make new ones. Yeah. It might mean that whole new franchises of 3D fighters are going to be made, which would be sick.
Yeah, like, make new franchises. I would definitely love them to bring back Bloody Roar, which I thought was a really good fighting series.
I liked Bloody Roar. Like, people always... It's weird. Like, a lot of the old school fans are like, Dead or Alive, Bloody Roar. Like, any game franchise, fighting franchise that didn't have a big arcade presence back in the day, people just, like, stick their noses up at. But I'm with you, man. I like Bloody Roar. That was cool. I played it on that tiny GameCube Lucky Charms Marshmallow D-pad. I played it on that.
Or Toshinden, because I think like Toshinden was doing what Soul Calibur was doing well before it. And I think Soul Calibur just took it to a whole new level, especially with well, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say with Soul Calibur they super refined it, because that Dreamcast port was just, man.
See my messy Dreamcast situation back there?
Oh man, I don't even have my camera aimed at my consoles over here. This is actually my wife's setup. She got her whole console set up. She's a gamer too.
That's cool. Yeah, I got my Dreamcast, or my Saturn, Dreamcast, Xbox, and behind it I've got a Sega CD Genesis, so it's pretty fun.
Really?
Yeah.
I swear I can't find a Sega CD like add-on anywhere.
It's not easy. It's not easy to find one that works either. I got one for like $100. I got lucky.
So,
got the model with it, but yeah, I really do think that Soul Calibur 6 is, if you're a fan of 3D fighters, go support Soul Calibur 6, because that shows the industry executives, hey, there is a viable market for this type of game.
Yeah.
It's not a one-off. It's not, oh, Tekken 7 was popular and it was just a coincidence. It's like, no, like this 3D fighters are the thing now. So that's what I think. I hope it does well. I'll support it.
So, like, as far as like your thoughts on gaming, I kind of want to throw something in there as to,
sure,
like gaming as a whole. I feel I'm concerned with the industry just because I feel like the more that they're focusing on online gaming or games that require you to always be connected,
hate that.
They're really killing the longevity of gaming now, because they're effectively putting a time limit on it. Because you think about it, and I've tried to have this argument with a lot of younger people, I guess born in 98 or 2000 or whatever. When you go back to gaming from like our generation, you can still go back, play it, and enjoy it. You don't have to worry about patches or anything like that. This new generation, and I really feel like it started the middle of the 360 and PS3's lifespan, where you can't go back and play these always online games. Like, how are you going to ever play Destiny 1 within 5 to 10 years from now? You can't.
Yeah.
PUBG or Fortnite or any of these arena style or online only.
Yeah, what's that one? It's like a Blizzard game or whatever. Overwatch.
Overwatch, yes.
Like freaking Overwatch. That's what I was yelling at people about. I was like, this game is not going to be around in 10 years.
Exactly.
Go play Donkey Kong Country. It's a real game.
No, it's so true though. Like, there's how are you when the servers go down, or is it just? And it really seems like the industry is trying to go towards games as a service rather than anything.
You're right.
Else.
I absolutely agree with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. I prepared some thoughts on this topic, and you said pretty much all of them already, man. Like, I completely agree with you. It's video games. And it's not just video games. It's like this for all kinds of media, for music, for movies. It's become disposable.
Yes.
It's disposable. There's no longevity. And it bothers me because, like, I don't really consider myself a gamer, even though I play a lot of video games, because to me, like, there's like a stigma. Like, a gamer is somebody that, like, eats Doritos and chugs like Mountain Dew every day and like yells at people online, like yells ethnic slurs online the whole time. And I'm like, no, I'm not that stigma. Like, I don't play Call of Duty. I don't play first person shooters or anything like that anymore. Like, I played Halo, and that was like the last one I really played. I'm more of I'm an enthusiast, and also kind of like a curator. Like, I like to find the good games and like hold on to them and have them. Like, do you ever watch Top Hat Gaming Man?
Yes.
Man, that guy is such a. I love that guy, but man, he's such a twat too. But like, it's so funny because I agree with him, even though he's such a pompous prick. But I agree with him because he's like, look at these games. You have to download onto your hard drive. These game discs are just plastic coasters that are glorified in encryption keys, because you can't even play the game off the disc anymore. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. He's like, you don't even own it. Whereas I, with my ZX Spectrum, have gathered all these fine wines. And I'm just like, but I'm the same way, man. Like, I go out, like, I found Albert Odyssey on the Sega Saturn, and I bought that, for like $120 or something. And I'm just like, I love this game. I really like it. And it's mine. I have it. We're at a point where this service that you're talking about, you don't own anything anymore.
Yeah.
Like, the definition of ownership, you have possession of it physically, or, well, maybe not even physically, but you got to have possession of it. And possession of it means you can sell it, you can loan it out. And you can't do that with a lot of games nowadays. You can't, like, go to your friend's house, pop in a game, play it on their system, and then pull it out like the old days. Like, I remember I used to be able to go, hey, man, you want to play Mortal Kombat 2? Sure, come on over to my house. Okay, I didn't have to take my whole system. I just took the cartridge and stuck it in his Super Nintendo. And you can't do that anymore. And it really concerns me because I have a small stack of PS2 games, and I bought some good ones like The Witcher 3 and Metal Gear Solid 5 and Persona 5 and Tomb Raider and all these other ones, and I really like them. But then I realized the game's not on the disc. I mean, it is, but you can't play it off the disc. It's on the hard drive. And I was like, oh, that killed buying PS4 games for me, because I don't really want to buy the games if I don't really have them, if I don't really own them.
Yeah.
And for me, it's still fun to buy Xbox 360 games. Not as fun to buy PS3 games because of that, I'll be honest. But I like the PS3, the fat model, because it was backwards compatible with PS2, PS1. But any games where like you bought the game and the whole thing was on the disc, that feels fun to have and to buy. That's why, to me, the Switch sometimes still feels fun to buy games for it, because you feel like I have it. It's right here on this disc. Unless you bought that NBA 2K whatever.
Oh,
like,
God.
That one's not the case, you know. But even the Switch, you have that problem too, but not as much. But like in 5 or 10 years, I can't really see myself buying games the way I did up until this point. Like, no. I feel like the industry is moving on from the people who made it an industry in the first place. So like we're the obsolete market, and they're moving on to this mainstream, and who cares what we think? Like we're the fans that put them where they are in the first place, but they're going to sell us out. And video games as we know it are going to change, and they're not going to appeal to us for much longer, is how I feel like it is. And so now I'm back in the depressing mode again with my answers. But
no, I mean, I feel the same way. I was actually having this conversation with one of my friends, and they're like, "Oh, you know, you're like one of the biggest gamers I know." I'm like, I don't really consider myself that anymore, because a lot of stuff that's coming out now, I don't even really care for. You know, like the whole let's see, what's the biggest thing now? Like, I have Overwatch, and I can't get into it. Like it doesn't appeal to me. And a lot of the games, especially with this last generation and even this one, if I've got to sit through a 2 to 3 hour tutorial before I can play the game, you've already lost me. Like,
yep. Sorry, man, I don't have that kind of attention span.
It's like I had a hard time with like Persona 3. Persona 4. When that came out on the PS2, and then it came out again on the Vita. Like I got the Golden Edition on Vita, and that tutorial is 2.5 hours long, almost 3 hours, and I'm like, I don't even want to play it anymore. It was like, oh man, it gets so good. I'm like, I don't care.
And that's funny because you really like Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah.
That's got a lot of tutorial in it. But that just shows how good of a game it is that you still wanted to play after all that tutorial. But yeah. You're right.
Like a lot of these games, it's just, and I really think that the game developers now, because you could definitely see this transition where it went from how mobile games are, the pay-to-win systems, it all originated there. And then, you know, these AAA developers are like, oh, why don't we model our games like that? And look at what EA has been doing.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, the mobile gaming market, I don't mean portable gaming market like the 3DS or something, because those are still great. And it's fun to buy those and collect those too. But I mean, like, we're talking like on your cell phones, you know, your smartphones, that kind of gaming, that's more profitable than the traditional model. And the traditional model has become obsolete. It's not as profitable. But to me, that's the only way I want to play. And it's not fun anymore when I can't own it. And when it becomes disposable. I feel like we're losing an important part of culture, honestly. And like, it's weird because gaming, it's more mainstream today than it's ever been.
Yeah. So
I want to back up for a sec, because I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, because we're in a good spot. Like, we're in a bit of golden age of gaming in a sense, because there's never been games of this quality and quantity, like volume, in any time in history. So like we have so much to enjoy, but as you said, it's very concerning because you wonder how, when the bottom falls out, and I don't mean like the market's going to crash, but when the traditional gaming as we know it leaves us behind, it's going to be sad because I view video games as art.
Yeah.
To me, it's just as a deep and enjoyable experience as reading literature, or poetry, or watching a film, or listening to music. Like, it's up there with those. And it's weird because gaming is so mainstream now, but it's also still socially unacceptable as well, which is why I don't want to call myself a gamer because there's a stigma about it. But like, I'm embarrassed. It's like a guilty pleasure kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to do what all old guys have done and just complain about the younger people and play our old stuff and be forgotten. That's what's going to happen.
See, I'm already doing that with like wrestling because I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And, when I meet people that talk about the current WWE, they're like, oh, did you see that match with Roman Reigns? It was amazing. I'm like, did you see New Japan Pro's Wrestle Kingdom? That was amazing. They're like, oh, what's that? That's actual wrestling. What you're watching, that's not wrestling.
No. I understand. I was into wrestling like WWF with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and all them. And then I even liked it when Hulk Hogan was Hollywood Hogan and he was in the NWO, and then you had the red NWO, and then you had the LWO with Eddie Guerrero or whatever, or Eddie Gordo, or I forget his name, but Eddie Gordo is from Tekken. Eddie Guerrero. But yeah, the Latino World Order. That was cool. And you had Sting and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, yeah, you had WCW and WWF. That was cool. That was a cool time as well.
And it's just like once Vince McMahon bought out his competition, and like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're done watching.
Pretty much. But I will say with the state of gaming, I think that Nintendo, since they are so behind the times, and even still they kind of are, like they're forward thinking in some ways because they're unique, but they haven't really embraced the DRM online models that Sony and Microsoft have started to embrace. Like I don't like playing games on PC. I'm about as anti-PC master race as you can get. And it's not that I'm saying you shouldn't play games on PC or anything like that. And it's not that I don't enjoy playing games on PC sometimes, but I've just found PCs kind of somewhat unreliable and high maintenance to do video games with. I just want my computers to computer, and I want my consoles to my video games to video game, And I just want to pop in the game, hit the on button and play, and don't have to think about anything. And I feel like I don't see the difference. Like the line between the PS4 and Xbox One and a PC console is very blurry right now. But the line between the Nintendo Switch and PC is pretty solid still. Yeah. And as much as people have complained about Nintendo being behind the times, it might be that traditional old school mentality because they're toy makers, that they might stay with physical media and they might still hang around and provide a traditional gaming experience for a while longer. And I'm sad to say that because I really like Microsoft and Sony, but at least I honestly think I'm so glad the Switch has become the next big thing. Like it's becoming the next big console. And if Nintendo can keep succeeding, I think that they are our best shot for a traditional physical medium gaming experience still.
Yeah.
Which even now they're not doing it all the way though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, and I really agree with you because you look at, and a lot of people, which is amazing. I'm glad you brought that up about them being a toy maker originally. A lot of people have no idea of Nintendo's history. Yeah. And it's amazing. And especially like when I talk to a lot of YouTubers that are, Nintendo channels, and it's amazing to find out that they actually don't know anything beyond Smash Brothers.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like they don't know the history of Nintendo, why Nintendo's always had a unique gimmick to their consoles. They're like, oh, this is just them trying to be different. No, it's because they're a software. I mean, a toy maker. That's their original model. They want to make unique experiences that set them apart. I mean, yeah, they could make a console that's super powerful that competes with the competition, but they've done that already. They've done that twice, and a lot of people, I don't know, 3 times actually. People don't really realize that Nintendo has chased power before with their consoles. They did it with the Super Nintendo, which was more powerful than Sega Genesis.
Right.
They did it with the 64, which was the most powerful out of the Saturn and the PS1.
Yeah, it was just the cartridge memory space held it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guts of the N64 were way beyond. Yeah.
And then they did it again with the GameCube. Even though it was a small form factor, it was more powerful than a PS2. But again, Nintendo realizes if you're chasing power, that's a losing battle. Yeah.
And we have diminishing returns in regards to chasing power also. Like it's starting to matter less and less how, like what the specs are, because the quality of the gaming isn't really jumping up with the graphical quality. And even the graphical quality isn't jumping up as high as it was before. So yeah, you're right. Also, I found out the name Nintendo means the luck of heaven, because they were a trading card company too. Yeah. So, you know, get lucky. It's the luck of heaven, Nintendo. So they're pretty lucky. But that's why they're always trying to sell you cards and crap. Like, do you ever get annoyed by that? You're like, what the heck is this? Like, you open up Pokken Tournament and you're like, what's this Mewtwo card in here? Shadow Mewtwo? Why is this a card? Well, it's because they were a trading card company before. So that's why they do that. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So I guess if you want to move into the last topic, the open topic, I give you the floor.
Okay, well, hey, yeah, for open topic, I just really wanted to talk a little bit about Shenmue 3. But the thing is, we kind of talked about a lot of it already. Like, because I talked about how Shenmue was originally a Virtua Fighter RPG. And I talked about how I would like to see Yakuza characters and Shenmue characters in a new Virtua Fighter game. I guess we didn't really talk that much about how Yakuza is a kind of a spiritual successor in some ways to Shenmue. But from what I gather, you enjoyed the Yakuza games, right?
I've enjoyed them so far, enough to the point where I have been tracking down Shenmue 1 and 2 so I can experience what it actually came from. And a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, you like Yakuza. Yeah. Well, you're going to fall in love with Shenmue.
Well, sure. Although I would say that Shenmue is, you've got to have some realistic expectations for it, because, you know, it came out in 1999.
Yeah.
So, like, it's very impressive for its time. But it's one of the very first open world games that was like open-ended, where you could go and do whatever you want, whenever you wanted, within limits. But it was pretty open-ended for its time. It was very non-linear. It's still kind of linear now compared to most open world games, but it was very non-linear in its day. But it's kind of a slow burn. And it's more about just like feeling like I'm really in Japan. I'm really this guy. Like, I'm really going through this right now. And like, it felt realistic. Like it's not like in Yakuza where every time you walk down the street, like there's some like little Japanese thug going like, hey, ora! And you're like, what? Nani? And you just start punching him in the face. Like, it's not like that in Shenmue, like all the time. Like, a normal person doesn't get in fights like that constantly, but there are fights. Like, there's a good amount of action in Shenmue also. But a friend of mine, he really loves the Yakuza games. And I kind of forced him to play Shenmue when he came to visit with me one day. And we played through almost all of Shenmue 2 together. And he was fine with Shenmue, but he prefers Yakuza a lot more. And what he said to me was, oh, Yakuza is like Shenmue, but like with the fighting part of Shenmue like the whole time, like without the slow parts. And I was like, yeah, I guess you could say that. But Shenmue is great, dude, especially as a fan of Virtua Fighter. When you go in there and you see some of the old moves come back, and you'll see Easter eggs, like you're in Ryo's house and you go in your friend's room and you look on the wall and there's a Virtua Fighter 2 poster up on the wall. And you can go to the Gachapon toys and you're like, putting yen in there, and it pops out like a Jeffrey McWild toy, and you're like, oh, cool, and you put it in your backpack, and it's great, man. Freaking, I love Shenmue. It's one of my favorite games ever. Are you excited for Shenmue 3? Do you feel like you have to play the first 2 games to play Shenmue 3? Is that?
I do, but that's like one of the things I'm not really too worried about.
Okay. Yeah. Are you planning on are you looking forward to it? Because I guess Shenmue 3 is coming out in 2018, as far as I know. I mean, they could delay it again, but it sounds like it's coming out. So
I think it is this year.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
One of the things I'm looking at doing is trying to. What I'm basically gonna do is just play them back to back. Like I'm probably gonna start Shenmue 1 this week, thinking probably the end of the week, because that's when I'm gonna have the most free time. I'm gonna start.
What? Wait, what? You have Shenmue 1? You bought it?
Yeah, it should be on the way this week.
What? It's gonna be on the way. Are you gonna stream it?
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that.
Oh man, I'm so excited now, dude. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to realize that's what you were saying. I was like, oh yeah, he's talking about maybe playing. No, you're saying it's a done deal. I was trying to convince you to play it, but you're already doing it. All right. I want to watch you. I'm going to watch your streams, bro. This is going to be great.
And then Shenmue 2, I think I may have found a friend that has it that just doesn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
for Xbox? Nice. Yeah, Xbox is a fine way to play it, for sure. I listened to your album, by the way.
Which one?
The one on your you have more than one album?
Yeah.
That's my wife in the background. Sorry.
I have 4.
Yeah, 4 albums. I listened to the one that's featured on your website.
Oh yeah, that one I did back in 2015.
Oh man, it's good.
I dropped one the beginning of last year, and it was just like a random project. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out. But yeah, music is definitely one of the things that my mother has always pushed us, like me and my siblings, to get into music or art or a combination of the two, just because she felt like it's really therapeutic. And
yeah,
I really enjoyed music. I would sing in high school and in college, and when I used to be a club promoter in my I want to say my junior college years, that's when I actually ran into a producer for Virgin Records that came out here on vacation. And what I ended up doing was impressing him, and I got a developmental contract, so I got to do ghostwriting and performing for other artists, like the one I primarily wrote for. And it's kind of a telling thing, because I would write and I would actually sing for him because he would lip sync. It's this artist, Christian the Prince. So I would lip sync. He would lip sync and I would sing for him.
Nice.
The main thing was because they didn't feel like I had the look that they were going for, and he did.
What?
And it's kind of it's a common thing in the industry, and you'll see there are a lot of artists that actually can't sing, and they have someone that performs for them, or they'll have a live track that they're going to lip sync to, and they have to memorize the timing of everything. And
wow, it's so fake. I can't believe how fake it is.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, the amount of writers and ghost writers and ghost singers that are doing music. And I did that. I was with them for all the way up until, I want to say, 2015, 2016, and I just had enough. And
I don't blame you.
It really burnt me out from music. I haven't done anything since the beginning of last year, and a lot of people are like, oh, do another album. I'm like, I've got local artists out here in Hawaii that actually want me to get on their albums or work with them. I mean, I do help produce the music still too, but I kind of it's kind of one of those, I've been there, did that, I'm kind of over it things.
No, but it's cool. I like it. I was listening. I was like, there's some good tunes on here. I was going to say, to quote your album, Shenmue is one of the games that I play that I got to take my shirt off. I never take my shirt off for these hoes. But I take it off for Shenmue. You know what I'm saying? My wife's over there. No, man, I was gonna say let's collab and make a Virtua Fighter like song. Just make it like a hit piece against the Tekken community. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he would be. He would be the one that's singing.
No, we know you can sing.
No, but I like your albums and stuff though, man.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for you to play Shenmue, and that's one of the games I cherish. That game I cherish. Like, there are very few games I truly cherish, but for me, it's like Ocarina of Time, Shenmue, Skies of Arcadia, Virtua Fighter, games like that. I'm like, oh, like it's art, and it's a piece of culture that just it changes your life. Like, it affected me in ways that, you know, only art, only as a medium with artistic value could influence you. Yeah. Like, I think video games can do that, just like music and poetry and films and books and literature, you know? So.
Great.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, got anything else you want to bring up? You want to promote for your...
Well, hey, if you like talking about retro games or Shenmue or Virtua Fighter or Sega games and stuff like that, come on over to Oh So Jiggly. Hang out with us. We'd love to have you. Thank you for having me on, Mekel. I really appreciate you, man.
No problem, man.
You're a cool guy.
Like I said, man, I'm a big fan of your content. Like, I've watched you for a while, and like I didn't even think you would be willing to come on, because like there's a lot of content creators I'm fans of that I've actually reached out to, and you know, a lot of them like, oh, I don't know, you know, podcast, live stream is kind of a different format, but
hey, yeah,
it's surprising, like the amount of people that have been like, yeah, let's do it. Like,
on the low, I thought I was like, oh man, this guy is gonna like trick me onto a podcast and ambush me, and he's gonna like expose me, like how I don't really know what I'm talking about.
There's a lot of people that do that though.
Yeah, but then like I watched your podcast and I was like, oh, this is a nice guy. Like, oh, this guy's cool. So I was like, yeah, sure. I was being paranoid at first though.
No, I've actually had that happen to me a couple times with a couple other YouTubers that I've gone on their channels and they've tried to do the whole exposing thing and
roast you and stuff.
It is, yeah, and the whole thing. And like what I do is I just stop talking.
No, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, but what do you think about this? I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, ouch. I don't blame you. That's pretty messed up, dude. I've had people like, and the thing is, even though I tried to be as respectful as possible, like that Virtua Fighter, or those two Virtua Fighter videos I made comparing them to Tekken, comparing Virtua Fighter to Tekken, it really like made a lot of people really angry. And I tried my best to be very respectful, because the thing is, I'm a fan of Tekken also. Mm-hmm. But like I had people like tell me to kill myself and stuff over it. Like, it's really serious. Yeah. And I was like, hey man, like I've had friends actually kill themselves like recently in the last couple of years. Like, it's not something to say, like,
yeah, that's just not,
you don't just say that. It really happens. Like, it's not good, but that's the thing. Like, thankfully there's a lot of people that go, hey man, even though I disagree with you, I appreciate that you tried your best to be fair and you know, and I think you did a good job and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, which one of these is Mekel? Is he like, go kill yourself? Or is he like hey, I like what you're trying to do kind of guy? And you're the latter, thankfully. So I'm glad you did reach out to me, man. So let's play a match sometime online.
Definitely.
What do you say? Okay.
I'm down to do that.
All right.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, like a lot of people I've tried to tell they're interested in getting into YouTube or streaming. I said, you're going to have to be strong, because you're going to go up against a lot of people that are going to be really, I'm just going to say unique. Like I've done giveaways, like, you know, consoles giveaways. I gave away Switches like when they first came out last year. Which is funny. I got married the same day the Switch came out, and I also did my giveaway.
All right.
It's like people, I've had like on that day, like on my wedding day, and on throughout my honeymoon, I had people sending death threats to me, to my wife, to family, all over a giveaway. And
Holy crap, dude.
And it's insane. I've seen other YouTubers that I was, cool with, or I was following. I really liked them. Like, feel like I was taking away from them. And YouTube, in and of itself, has a lot of drama, which I was not expecting when I first got into it. But
yeah, the internet's not always a nice place. That's for sure. So, but there are nice people in it, like you, man. So I'm glad I met you, and glad you had me on here.
I'm definitely glad we've got to connect, man. I'm
just to warn you, when we do play, I am bad at fighting games. So I'll just expose myself. I am bad at fighting games. I admit it. I am. Never claimed I wasn't. But the thing is, I don't care that I'm bad at fighting games because I like them. And I feel like it's like I'm bad at football. Like, I'm not. Well, I am bad at football, but I don't really like football. But I have friends that are bad at football, but they love football.
Yeah.
And they can talk about football and they appreciate football. Fighting games are the same way. You can be bad at it and still really like it and understand it and appreciate it. So.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, because I've competed in some tournaments. I think that was one of my other topics I wanted to talk about is I've competed in some tournaments out here in Hawaii and also in the mainland. And one of the things I've kind of noticed with a lot of people, especially in the FGC, and I'm not trying to take shots at the FGC or anything, but it can be a really toxic community.
I'll take shots at the FGC. Yeah, man. You know what's keeping people out of fighting games? It's not the difficulty curve of fighting games. It's the FGC, man. Yeah. It's people being elitist and shutting people down for having opinions and being rude, man. It's not like... Now, look, that's the vocal minority of the FGC. We got to be clear on that. But it's a very vocal minority. And so we got to handle that because that's the real threat to fighting games. It's not the difficulty or the entry barrier. It's the toxic community, like you're saying. So, yeah.
And they really do. Like, it's a game comes out, they'll critique it to hell and back. And if you're just playing for fun, then they have this mentality where I don't even feel like they play the games for fun.
Take it too serious.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think there needs to be a revision amongst the FGC because that community there, I think primarily why the fight game community or, as a whole has not taken the mainstream like, say, shooters have.
I think you're right. And I think the fact that you're saying that makes you a total mad lad. Absolute mad lad. Mekel is a mad lad. Anyway, I appreciate that. You spit the truth. Spit the truth, man. I think we've been talking too long because I'm like getting kind of weird now. I'm sorry about that. The real I've been holding up this facade for too long. I can only act normal for so long.
No, it's fine. I know we initially were planning for like an hour, but like you're having these organic conversations. It just really it goes. And
it does.
I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, man. I definitely look forward to having you on the podcast again, playing, some fighting games with you. I'd love to do a collab with you.
Anytime. Call me. You call me when you need me. I'll be there.
All right. Sounds good, man. And go ahead, plug your channel again,
Oh So Jiggly.
And everyone, links for his channel will be down in the description below. And I'm MekelKasanova. We've got Segalacious of Oh So Jiggly. And we're signing out. This has been a good one. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for however you're consuming this content. This will be available on Google Play Music as well as iTunes in the morning. And that's just about all I got to say.
That's a wrap.
All right. See you guys later.